Family suddenly disowned me for refusing to fund my sister's choices. "You owe her everything!" they screamed. I smiled and cut them off. Now they're begging because, you know, when you hear your own family scream at you that you owe someone everything, it does something permanent to you. Especially when it's been your whole life, when your role wasn't son or brother. It was servant. Growing up, it was never really about me. It was about Sarah, my younger sister. Sarah was the golden child, the bright star. And me? I was the gravity that was expected to keep her from falling. My parents made it painfully clear. If Sarah needed anything, a ride, money, a cover story, I was supposed to drop whatever I was doing. No questions asked? "You owe her everything," they'd bark whenever I hesitated. Every award I earned, every milestone I hit, every dollar I saved, it wasn't mine. It was the family's, which really meant it was Sarah's. At first, I told myself it was temporary. Sarah would grow up. She'd get it together. I told myself that once she was older, things would even out. That eventually, they'd be proud of me for who I was. But time has a cruel way of erasing those kinds of fantasies. I remember one Thanksgiving, sitting at the table, surrounded by family, and yet feeling more alone than I ever had. My sister was flashing her new designer handbag, one she deserved after dropping out of her third college. My parents beamed like she had cured cancer. Meanwhile, I had just finished paying off their mortgage behind the scenes, and not a word was said about it. Not a thanks. Not even an acknowledgement. That night, as I drove home through the empty streets, headlights cutting through the mist, a thought crept into my mind for the first time. What if I just stopped? What if I stopped paying? Stopped helping? Stopped living for people who only saw me as a wallet with legs? At the time, I shoved the thought away. Buried it. Told myself it was just exhaustion talking. After all, family was family, right? But deep down, the first cracks had started to form. And cracks have a way of widening when you least expect it. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, the kind of lazy day when you should be worrying about nothing more than what movie to watch. I was cleaning out my email inbox when I stumbled across a forwarded message from my mother. At first I thought it was a mistake, just a random attachment she sent by accident. But curiosity got the better of me. It was a financial plan. A very detailed one. Budgets, projections, lists of expenses, all centered around Sarah's newest business venture. Some sort of boutique cafe/art gallery that she wanted to open in a town she'd visited once on a weekend trip. The thing that made my stomach turn? At the bottom of the document, in my mother's messy cursive, she had written, "We'll have James fund the startup. He owes her everything anyway." That line hit me harder than I could have ever expected. It wasn't just a guilt trip anymore. It wasn't some heat-of-the-moment shout. No, this was planned. Carefully, coldly. They were orchestrating my future behind my back, expecting, assuming, that I would foot the bill for yet another one of Sarah's reckless dreams. And the worst part? Sarah had signed her name at the bottom too. As if it was already a contract. As if I had no say in it. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling the quiet hum of my apartment around me. No anger yet. No sadness. Just a kind of numb clarity. They never loved me for me. They loved what I could do for them. That realization, it was like a lock clicking open inside my chest. This wasn't just a bad family dynamic. This was betrayal. And for the first time in my life, I realized, maybe I didn't have to play along anymore. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't send a long, emotional email like the old me might have. No, I drove straight to my parents' house. It was late afternoon when I pulled into the driveway. The sky was that heavy kind of gray that makes everything feel more serious, more final. I remember sitting in the car for a second, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the front door, the same door I'd walked through 1,000 times, always hoping for approval that never came. Not this time. This time, I was here for me. I walked up the steps and knocked. I didn't even wait for them to answer. I opened the door and stepped inside. I could hear laughter in the kitchen, my parents, my sister, all of them talking like nothing was wrong. When they saw me, the room got quiet. You could practically feel the temperature drop. "James," my mother said, voice bright but strained. "We were just talking about you." "I bet you were." I held up my phone, the email open on the screen. "I read it," I said. They exchanged quick glances, the kind that give everything away. "Read what?" my father asked, already playing dumb. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I just stepped forward and placed the phone on the kitchen table between us. "The plan," I said. "The one where you decided that I'd fund Sarah's cafe." Without asking me. Without even telling me. Like it was expected. Sarah scoffed and leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "It's not that big of a deal," she said. "You're successful. You can afford it." I stared at her, feeling something inside me harden, something that would not be softened again. "You think because I worked hard, because I made something of myself, that you're entitled to it," I said, my voice quiet, razor sharp. My father leaned forward, his voice dropping into that low, dangerous tone he always used when he thought he could bully me back into line. "We raised you," he said. "We sacrificed for you. You owe her. You owe us." There it was again. That old poisoned refrain. You owe her everything. But something had shifted inside me. I smiled, not kindly, but coldly, cleanly. "No," I said. "I don't owe you anything." My mother gasped like I had slapped her. Sarah's jaw dropped. My father stood up from his chair so fast it scraped loudly across the tile. "You ungrateful little..." he started. But I was already turning toward the door. "I'm done," I said over my shoulder. "With all of you." And for the first time in my life, the first time, I felt no guilt at all. Just freedom. When I stepped outside that day, the cold air hit me like a baptism. I stood on the porch for a long moment, breathing it in. It felt like waking up from a long, heavy dream. For years, my life had been built on guilt, on trying to earn scraps of love from people who only loved what I could do for them. Now, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was done. By the time I drove home, the decision was fully formed. I would not be the good son anymore. I would not fund Sarah's disasters. I would not pick up the phone when they needed another bailout. I would not show up when it was convenient for them and be invisible when it wasn't. I blocked their numbers that night. Blocked their emails. Changed my work contact details, just in case they tried to get clever. I even went as far as looking at apartments in another city, somewhere they wouldn't casually show up at my door. I wasn't running away. I was moving forward. And it amazed me how easy it was once the decision was made. There was no sleepless night. No second guessing. No gnawing guilt. Just a steady, growing peace. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of 3 other people's mistakes on my back. I was standing tall on my own. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "This is what freedom feels like." The first few months were strange. Not bad, just quiet. No frantic calls. No angry texts. No guilt trips wrapped in fake concern. At first, the silence felt almost unnatural, like walking into a room where the noise had just been sucked out. But slowly, it became beautiful. I poured myself into my work. Without their constant interruptions and demands, my career took off like wildfire. I landed 2 major clients within the first 6 months, contracts that gave me the kind of financial security I'd only dreamed about before. With the extra money, I bought a house, not a mansion or anything, but a beautiful, cozy place with a big oak tree out front and a kitchen that always smelled like fresh coffee. More importantly, it was mine. No one could guilt me into giving it up. No one could take it away. I built a circle of real friends, the kind of people who didn't measure my worth by what I could do for them, but by who I was when I wasn't doing anything at all. People who saw me, really saw me, for the first time in my life. And then, there was Anna. She wasn't flashy or dramatic like Sarah had always been. She was steady. Kind. She listened when I spoke, laughed at my jokes even when they were bad, and celebrated my victories without a hint of envy. When I told her about my past, about how I grew up believing my only value was what I could give, she didn't pity me. She just took my hand, squeezed it, and said, "You're enough, James. You always were." Those 5 words healed something in me that years of hard work and silent suffering never could. I was thriving. And for the first time, it wasn't in service of anyone else's dream. It was for me. Meanwhile, the cracks in my family's perfect little facade were starting to show. And soon, they would come looking for me. But by then, I wouldn't be the boy they once knew. It started small, just a ripple at first. About a year after I cut them off, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line simply said, "Please, can we talk?" At first, I thought it might be spam. But when I opened it, there it was, my mother's unmistakable tone, wrapped in faux sweetness and thinly veiled desperation. "James, I know you're busy, but Sarah's going through a rough patch. Her business didn't take off the way we all hoped. She's under so much pressure. We were hoping you might reconsider helping her. Just a little." I laughed, actually laughed, sitting alone in my sunny living room with a mug of coffee in my hand. Her business venture, the one they had planned for me to fund without asking, had crashed and burned. No surprise there. Sarah didn't know the first thing about running a business. She had thought a pretty Instagram page and a few inspirational quotes were enough to keep a cafe afloat. I didn't respond. Over the next few months, the messages grew more frantic. From polite to pleading. From pleading to manipulative. They dangled bait. "Your sister's depressed. She needs family right now." They threw guilt like grenades. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" They even tried fake emergencies. "Your father's health isn't good. It's serious, James." For the record, he was spotted a week later coaching a little league baseball team. Apparently serious illness looks a lot like umpiring from a folding chair. And when I still didn't bite, they got bold. One day, I left work to find my sister sitting on the hood of my car in the parking lot. She jumped up when she saw me, her makeup smudged from tears, real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. "James, please," she gasped, like she'd been rehearsing the line. "You don't understand. I'm drowning. I need you. We need you." I stood there, keys in hand, watching her like you watch a stranger perform on a street corner, detached, vaguely interested, but not invested enough to reach into my pocket. "You made your choices," I said calmly. "Now live with them." I got into my car, started the engine, and left her standing there, the same way they had once left me. That was when I realized something. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel guilty. I felt right. They were crumbling without me. And I wasn't going to save them this time. For once, their chaos wasn't my burden to carry. After the parking lot incident, things went quiet for a while. It almost fooled me into thinking they had finally given up. But people like my parents and Sarah? They don't give up. Not when they think they're entitled to you. It started with small attempts to claw their way back into my life. Birthday cards showing up at my office, gifts left anonymously at my doorstep. An awkward, overly cheerful voicemail from my father saying he was proud of me, the first time I had heard those words in my entire life. Each attempt felt fake, hollow, as if they were ticking boxes on a checklist titled How to Win James Back. I wasn't moved. But I saw something in all of it that made me pause, desperation. And that's when I realized, if I played this right, I could make them beg. Not just once, but properly, humiliatingly. I waited. I didn't respond to anything for months. I let them stew, let their anxiety ferment into panic. Then, casually, one afternoon, I sent a single email to my mother, just a few lines. Maybe. But things would have to change. A lot. No promises. No explanations. Just enough to plant a tiny seed of hope in their crumbling world. And just like that, they latched onto it. The calls started again, but softer this time, desperate but sweet. Apologies that sounded rehearsed, like they were reading from a script they barely understood. Sarah even emailed me a long, rambling letter. It was full of fake humility, sentences like, "I realize now how much you did for me. I'm sorry I didn't appreciate it. I just want my brother back." It was so transparent it was almost funny. I decided to reply. I told them, in writing, that I would consider rebuilding the relationship. Under certain conditions. Sarah would need to pay back a portion of what I had given her over the years. My parents would need to publicly acknowledge, in front of the entire extended family, how they had used me. Most importantly, they would have to put it in writing, no empty words this time. I knew they would never agree. But they didn't know that. To them, this was their golden ticket back to the good old days, when James meant money, stability, and endless forgiveness. For weeks they scrambled. Sarah sent pathetic little payments, $50 here, $100 there, trying to prove she was serious. My parents started calling relatives, spinning wild stories about how they were being unfairly punished by their ungrateful son. Trying to gather sympathy, only to be met with confusion. Turns out, without my funding, the charming mask they wore around extended family cracked fast. Bills piled up. Sarah's credit crashed. The mortgage payments were falling behind. And still, they believed they could fix it with a little more begging, a little more lying, a little more pretending. They had no idea they were digging their own graves with every desperate move. I wasn't just walking away this time. I was watching them collapse. Brick by brick, lie by lie. And smiling as I planned the final blow. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. One of my cousins, Amanda, was getting married. Big family event. Everyone would be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. Normally, I would have skipped it. But this time, it felt like the perfect stage. When the invitation arrived in the mail, crisp and formal, I smiled to myself. I RSVP'd immediately, yes, with a +1. Anna would be by my side. The woman who had seen me for who I truly was, not for what I could provide. I could already imagine it. Me thriving. Them desperate and falling apart, pretending everything was fine. So I planned carefully. I waited until the reception, after everyone had loosened up, after the small talk and the clinking of glasses, after the polite laughter grew lazy. And then I made my move. They approached first, of course. Sarah in a cheap knockoff dress pretending it was designer. My mother and father behind her, smiling that brittle, hollow smile of people who are dying inside but can't let the world see. "James," my mother said, voice syrupy sweet. "We've missed you so much." I smiled, genuinely this time. "Funny," I said. "I haven't missed you at all." There was a murmur from the people nearby, heads subtly turning toward us. Sarah stepped forward, her fake smile tightening. "I've been doing what you asked," she said quickly, voice trembling. "Paying you back. Making things right. You've paid back less than 1%, I said calmly. "That's not repentance. That's insult." My father's face darkened. "We're trying," he hissed under his breath. I laughed loud enough that half the room heard. "Trying? You spent 20 years treating me like an ATM. Like a spare part. And now that the well's dry, you want forgiveness?" My voice was calm, conversational, but sharp enough to cut steel. People were openly staring now. I leaned in, my voice dropping low but carrying through the quieted room. "You taught me my only value was what I could give you. So here's my final gift. I'm giving you the freedom to figure it out without me." I stepped back, taking Anna's hand. "Good luck," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You're going to need it." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout could have been. I didn't wait for their response. I turned, walking away into the crowd, surrounded by whispers and wide eyes. Behind me, I could hear Sarah's voice rising, desperate, cracking. My mother's sobs starting to break through. My father shouting something bitter and meaningless into the air. But I didn't look back. Not once. The fallout came fast. By the time I got home that night, my phone was buzzing nonstop, dozens of missed calls, voicemails, and text messages. Some angry. Some pleading. Some so incoherent they were almost funny. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat on my back porch with Anna, the stars bright above us, a soft breeze moving the trees. I cracked a beer, leaned back, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel the gnawing pressure in my chest. No more weight. No more chains. I was free. Over the next few days, the messages grew more desperate. Sarah emailed me long, weepy paragraphs about how humiliated she was, how heartless I was, how family sticks together through hard times. My mother sent pictures of old family vacations, as if nostalgia could erase a lifetime of betrayal. My father, always too proud to grovel properly, sent one terse message. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed this family. I didn't respond. Not once. Instead, I made it official. I changed my phone number. I changed my email addresses. I closed the last joint bank account my parents had somehow never removed me from, an account they had quietly continued to dip into, even after everything. I moved all my important financial information to new institutions they didn't know about. I even adjusted the beneficiary on my own insurance policies and legal documents. Just in case they ever got desperate enough to try something bigger, something uglier. It was a total purge. A clean break. One day, a few weeks later, I stood outside my house, the home I had built for myself, and watched the sun set behind the trees. My phone didn't ring. No guilt. No begging. Just peace. I thought about everything they had taken from me over the years, the sacrifices, the dreams I had deferred, the money I would never see again. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. I felt gratitude. Because without them, without the cruelty, the manipulation, the betrayal, I might never have built this life. I might still be stuck, living for someone else. Their destruction was the price of my freedom. And it was a price I was more than willing to pay.